Everyone can hear me all right? Sure, we're good? Okay.
Yeah, we're good.
Awesome. So hello, everyone. My name is Marriam Tariq. I'm super excited to bring forth this conversation today. We have some fun stories, relatable content. We're hoping that will resonate with you as you navigate getting settled and employed in Canada. Many of our speakers today have been in the same shoes as yourself, so we're really able to empathize this journey you're on and look forward to the conversations today. Just a quick overview of our agenda. We'll start off with some introductions. Rahul will be sharing what customer success means to us, as well as just an overview of our objective. And then we have three wonderful speakers lined up where we're really hoping to dive into their unique journeys. And then we're going to have about 10 minutes at the end for Q&A. But if there are any questions that come about during our conversations, please feel free to send them through the chat. We'll be keeping an eye on those questions. And if there's any we can address during our conversations, we'll definitely make sure to, otherwise we'll save them till the end. So again, hello everyone, my name is Marriam Tariq. I am a Senior Principal Customer Success Manager based out of Toronto, Canada. I align with the financial services industry. I'll hand it over to my co-host Rahul.
Hey everyone, my name is Rahul. I work with MuleSoft as a Senior Customer Success Manager, and I'll be talking about my journey a bit as well in subsequent slides. Really looking forward to this.
Great. Next, awesome. So we're gonna save the deeper introductions for a little later, but just to kind of give the team an overview of our speakers, we have three very unique but very relatable journeys that we're hoping to share today, and ultimately three different perspectives. We have Arinze, we have Chichi, and Paul. We'll be doing a little bit, we'll save the introductions for a little later on. So I'll hand it over to Rahul to give us an overview of our discussion today.
For sure. And first of all, I'd like to thank JBS Toronto Canada InfoNet for providing us with this great opportunity. And a big thank you to all of you for joining us today. So as you know, my name is Rahul. I am a senior CSM with MuleSoft. But before we begin to hear about the amazing journeys of our panelists, I just want to provide a bit of context behind us having this webinar. So me, myself, I actually moved to Canada from India in 2019, and my career till then was majorly in marketing and management consulting. So my career shift, as we say, was triggered by my move to Canada. And honestly, I couldn't have been happy. I couldn't be happier. So for me personally, these webinars, these mentorship programs help me not only just with the networking aspect of things, but understanding the capabilities, the possibilities, that I could pursue once I'm here. Focusing on customer success, I know there's a lot of talk about how fast customer success as a vertical is growing, what are the growth opportunities, what are the possibilities, tremendous opportunities we do have. But if I may quote one of my manager, Paul Chawla here, that as a CSM, you are like the CEO of your accounts. So what you are actually is focused on is not just growing your career. You're responsible for making your customers successful, your organization successful, your team successful. And when I say successful, actually showing them tangible value. And you see as IT is growing, our SaaS platforms are becoming more and more complex. What CS does is actually unlocks capabilities and possibilities for everyone. So I'm really hoping that after this webinar today, you'll have a good understanding of how you can actually grow your career in CS, and hopefully you'll probably see as a possibility becoming a CSM with us in future. As a next step, what I'll do is I'll move on to Arinze, my manager, and have him introduce himself.
Hi, everyone. Very nice to meet you all. My name is Arinze Okonkwo. I'm a senior manager with our customer success team here at MuleSoft. I feel extremely fortunate to lead a team of just amazing CSMs, who every day strive to help our customers achieve value and achieve their business outcomes using the MuleSoft platform. I moved to Canada in June of 2019 from Nigeria. And I see a lot of Nigerian names and faces on the call today, so very excited to share my journey with you all. Fun fact about me, I've visited 52 countries, took a pause from traveling over the last 2 years because of COVID, but looking forward to picking that up again.
Great. Thank you, Arinze. I guess the first question has to be, what was your favorite country?
Well, there's no place like home, but I guess that technically doesn't count. I've been to a few really interesting countries on the African continent. I had my honeymoon in Gambia, which is just this amazingly beautiful, very small country, just surrounded by the most amazing beaches. Croatia was also very nice. Czech Republic, I really liked, lots of old European history.
But nothing beats Canada, though.
Well, Canada isn't traveling, right? Canada is home now. So
to all the newcomers, Canada is amazing.
Yes,
Absolutely.
indeed. Absolutely. Thank you for that. So are you able to tell us a little bit about your journey in coming to Canada, and from an employment standpoint, what that looked like for yourself?
Yeah, it was a bit of a treacherous journey in many ways, because I had, what by most standards was a very good career back home. But the economic, socio-political situation just wasn't really what I was looking for myself and for my family. My wife was 3 months pregnant when we made the move. So obviously getting a job was super important and very critical. I had been searching for jobs prior to the move, wasn't really making a lot of inroads. And I think a part of it was just a naivety on my end as well, not understanding you needed to have a local address or a local phone number that, recruiters could reach out to you on. And so I just kind of focused on making the move. And when I moved here on the 4th of June, 2019, job searches just became my full-time job, essentially for my first month here. I would wake up early in the morning, shower, have breakfast, and 9 a.m. I'm sitting in front of my laptop, doing research and applying for roles. And I did that really religiously for the first few weeks. And, it reaped a lot of benefits. I think I ended up having 4 job offers in the space of a month. And so I had my choice, and I chose Salesforce for very obvious reasons.
That's fantastic. So if I was to ask you, when you're applying for those jobs, was there something in particular you did to help yourself stand out as a candidate amongst the local talent, for instance?
I would maybe let Paul speak to that later on, because Paul actually hired me 3 years ago.
Yep.
But I can share what I did.
Sure.
So on my side, there are a few things that I've always held true, especially moving countries. This is, I've lived in a fair few countries myself, so I've kind of been through variants of this move. And there are a few principles that I feel really helped me in just being well positioned to get a job. I think the first one is just being very frugal. You have to live within your means, and the temptation when you move countries is to splurge, buy 75-inch TV, order Uber Eats and all of that. The reason why that's important is because managing your cash flow is the biggest factor to, that drives people to abandon their dreams. Once you burn through the cash you move to a new country with, then you become desperate, then you start settling for jobs. So, just being very frugal gave me the bandwidth I needed to take the time to really search for the job I wanted, the job I was looking for. And then just being very focused. You need to figure out, what do I want to do? What kind of companies do those jobs? And go do your research, understand how they hire, what they're looking for. There's a lot of information out there on the internet. Again, the temptation is, applying for 20 different types of jobs. You apply as a business analyst, you apply as a project manager, you apply as a CSM. The challenge is you have to either customize your CV every time, or you use a blanket resume, which just doesn't hit the mark for any of those jobs. And of course, what do you do with your LinkedIn profile? Do you change your LinkedIn profile every couple of days? So being really focused, played a big role as well. And then networking. There are people out there who are always willing to help, or always willing to advise. Reach out to people in similar fields on LinkedIn, make connections. There are lots of working groups, lots of professional organizations that are free to join. It's a great way to meet people, they make introductions, and just really grow your network.
Yeah, that's fantastic advice. If I was to now just pivot that conversation, you've been employed by Salesforce. Help us understand how you've been able to progress your career over the last few years, and yeah, share a little bit of background into that.
Yeah, I just embrace what makes, many immigrants unique. We come with a hunger, we come with a drive, we come with a work ethic. A lot of us are very highly educated. And when you take that into the workplace in any country, those things tend to stand out. Those things tend to elevate your position. And so I got into Salesforce with the mindset of, as we tend to do back in my home country, you keep your head down and do a good job. And that was kind of the grounding in the organization. But very quickly you realize you need to be able to step away from your 9 to 5 and do more, contribute more to the broader success of the organization, contribute more to the culture. That's really how you stand out, especially in an organization like Salesforce. That's really how you get promoted. And in many ways, the 9 to 5, so being a customer success manager, that's what you get paid a salary for. That's not what you get promoted for, right? You need to be able to show that you're operating at a level above, your impact in the organization is broadly felt. That's really how you stand out. If you come in with the mindset of, I'm just gonna mind my business, do my job, you're gonna earn your salary every month, but you're probably not gonna do more than that.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Last question for you. Any last words of advice for folks going through this journey, even from a personal standpoint, if you're able to pull something out of your pocket?
Yeah, I think it's important to build connections, both in your personal and in your professional life. I strongly encourage everyone doing this, don't try to do this on your own. Don't come to Canada and camp in some far corner of Saskatchewan and decide you're gonna figure out life by yourself. You're gonna make yourself miserable. Wherever you are, find people, connect with people. The one thing I really love about Canada is people are very welcoming, people are very open, people are always willing to help. We're the country where people say sorry for things that are not their fault. Canadians are very, very, just very pleasant people. And especially in the workspace, reach out to people on LinkedIn, introduce yourself, help them understand what your journey is. You're trying to break into customer success, whatever the case may be. Ask them for advice, ask them if they have openings in their company, ask if someone's willing to review your resume. I say this because I do it all the time. I know Paul does it all the time. Rahul and Chichi can attest. We're constantly on LinkedIn, just working with people, trying to help people get their dream jobs. And there are countless other people in MuleSoft and in Salesforce who do that on a very, very regular basis. So don't be shy, don't be afraid to reach out to people. That's really how to make progress here.
Thank you. That's really insightful and I think fantastic advice. Awesome. We'll move on now to Chichi. Chichi, I'll give you a few seconds to introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Chinyere, but everyone calls me Chichi. I know I didn't shorten my name. That's really what calls me. I'm CSM, Customer Success Manager, and actually Arinze is my manager, and so is Paul. They were the ones who brought me on board. So I'm going to be completely positive and just delightful on this call. But yeah, I moved to Canada August 19th, 2019. So I'm coming up on 3 years from Nigeria, but I have lived in several other countries prior to. Fun fact about me, I know that's a bit weird to have a fun fact about being scared of roaches, but I am a huge horror fan. I love horror movies, I love gore, I love blood and all that stuff. So it's kind of funny that I am scared of cockroaches. It doesn't matter how small or how big, I would cry, no joke. So that's a fun fact there. Introduce myself on, I think that's about it.
Yeah. That's great. Thank you for that. I get it. You're scared of what you're scared of. Sometimes it doesn't make sense, but that's okay. Are you able to tell us a little bit about when you joined the workforce, or when you were looking to join the workforce 3 years ago. How was that journey?
I'm going to start with a disclaimer saying that my journey does not reflect the general experience of most immigrants that come in. I don't want to say I got lucky, but I guess I was blessed, I guess you can say that. I actually got my job, my first job in Canada 2 days after I landed in Canada. So I had started interviewing in Nigeria. As soon as I got my my visa to move, I started applying for jobs. I changed my LinkedIn location. I have family here, so I had an address to use. I got like a soft internet phone, so I had like a Canadian number as well. So when I was making out my CV, I did it in a way that I was already in Canada and I was just out for holidays, which is exactly what I said when I had like those interviews in Nigeria. And I would have them at like the oddest hours. I didn't really understand the time difference at the time. So I would be having calls or interviews like 9 p.m., 10 p.m. And I would have to pretend like, oh yeah, it's fine. It's sunny where I am. Yeah, that's perfectly fine when I was in bed. But I got my first job the second day that I landed, and it was an amazing role because I didn't even remember that I applied for the role. That was how much of applications that I was doing every day. So like Arinze said, what he was doing in Canada, I was doing in Nigeria. So I would wake up, sit on the desk and just start applying. I had like 110 CVs. In Nigeria prior to, I was working in Oracle as a business development consultant. So I was in the sales and marketing sphere, and that was what I was targeting essentially. And I knew that tech was, quite big in Canada. So I decided to play to those strengths as well. So that's exactly what I was applying to. And I got my first job with a company called SoftChoice. And I was a Microsoft sales representative there. I did have to take like a cut and have to kind of start at the bottom essentially. But my thinking at the time was, I'm new, I just want to get my foot in and I'll just go from there. So I would say I was willing to take anything that aligned with where I was coming from career-wise, just to get my foot in the door. And that just kind of like progressed from there as soon as I landed.
Yeah, no, there definitely seems to be some consistent themes with yourself and Arinze. So I think that's great for the listeners to hear and get that perspective. So once you joined SoftChoice, was that more so in a sales consulting type role?
It was more of a business development type role.
Okay,
yeah.
Understood. Okay. And then tell us a little bit about how you transitioned to customer success from there.
Oh, that's a very interesting story. So I spent almost 2 years in SoftChoice, and then I got referrals. So again, when they say network, it really like networking is amazing. I have gotten all of my jobs outside SoftChoice through networking. So someone who I knew referred me for a role or reached out to me for a role. So when I was in SoftChoice, I have a friend. She's in another company called Hootsuite. It's a social media marketing solutions company. Sorry, my mind just went blank there. But she referred me for a sales role in Hootsuite. And after my last interview, the hiring manager thought that I would do better in customer success, which was mind-blowing because I was trying to move to customer success in SoftChoice because I thought that I didn't have the right experience and all of that stuff. So I would start off in my company and then move out. But after the interview, after talking to me, she said she thought I was better suited for customer success. So she referred me to an open role in Hootsuite there for customer success. And after my first interview with my former manager at the time, it was a no-brainer. So I was able to really hone in my transferable skills from sales, because it does have to do a lot of customer relationship building and management and all that stuff, which as a salesperson you already have. So I just had to really highlight those skills that I had that I could bring into the CSM role. And after that, I was able to also move to MuleSoft, which is where I am right now. So that's
fantastic. That's great. During this journey, like I know you spoke about networking, but I'd love to hear your thoughts about the importance of having a mentor. Is that something, mentorship and sponsorship, is that something that you've tried to obtain during your career?
Absolutely. When I started my career in tech, I've been in tech just 7 years. I still consider myself a baby in tech. But when I started my career in Oracle, Arinze was the first person I would consider a mentor, and also a friend. So it started that way. And then every time I moved, I just met people who I want to say I clicked with, and it always just led to some form of mentorship. So I did have a mentor in soft choice. I didn't have any in Hootsuite because I didn't spend as much time, I would say, that I would have liked to. So I wasn't able to build that type of mentorship, but I did have people that I was able to lean on in terms of career advice and best practices and all that stuff. So yes, mentorship does play a huge factor in my life in terms of my career goals and my career journey. And I definitely advise anyone, even if I know there's some people who are a bit icky about the word mentorship, or like, oh, people just do it for XYZ reason. It's not, selfless or whatever. If you find someone who you can trust to give you the best advice that they possibly can to help you, not just even with your career, but also personal goals and, being a newcomer in Canada, definitely take that opportunity for sure.
Oh, that's great. If you were to look back at the last, like I'd say 3 or so years, what would you say is your biggest accomplishment or what you're most proud of? Any specific moment you can think of?
Too many,
or
too many. Honestly, it's sticking it out, because in as much as I have lived in like different countries prior to, I always knew that I was going to go back home. So there was always kind of like a deadline, even if it was 3, 2, 4, 5 years, whatever. But Canada is home now. Canada is going to be home. And when you move here, at first you're excited and then you just get that hit of reality. The culture is different. People are different. You're here in a new country as an adult. You have your way of life, your way of thinking, and then you have to sort of, I wouldn't say conform, but adjust to the way of life here. It can be very overwhelming as much. And I do have friends who are moving back home because, they couldn't stay. No, bad blood or any negative issue, but it's really hard to come into a country and just adjust to the way of life there. So I would say stick it out. It's worth it. It's hard at the beginning. And it's okay to take a step back, take a breather, from the job hunting for anything. Just take time for your mental health and take care of yourself, but it is worth it in the end. So that would be mine.
That's great advice. My last question for you would be around customer success in your current role. What does that mean to you on a day-to-day? Help us understand that a little bit.
Like Rahul said at the beginning, we are the CEOs of our territories and of our book of business. For me, customer success is basically being a team member to my customers. So I don't want to be seen as the other, like, oh, this is a new soft employee. I want to be seen as my customer's team member. So I really, really big on building relationship and sustaining those relationships and doing the possible best that I can to make sure that my customers see value with MuleSoft. So definitely it's all about relationship building for me and relationship management as well. So that's what it means to me.
That's great. Thank you, Chichi. I appreciate all your responses and your time.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
Great. We'll move on now to our last speaker, Paul. Paul, do you want to start off with an introduction?
Sure. First, I'd like to thank for everybody that put this session together. I'm very excited that I have this opportunity to speak about my experience, and I also want to thank everybody that is attending, because this is the first step of you investing in your career and your professional development. I think as these opportunities come up, please take advantage of them, leverage them, because if anything, this is building your skills, right? The more you engage, the more you hear from others, the more you'll know what works and what to avoid. As an introduction, I head up customer success for a part of MuleSoft's business, our commercial business. I have been in customer success now for about 8 years. I have sales background, consulting background, management background. But if I look at where things are going in the technology space, a lot of companies are moving to this SaaS model, which means we have to earn the business year over year. There's a lot of players out there. There's a lot of competition out there. We don't have big companies anymore. We have small, niche, nimble companies that are trying to win business. And for us to earn their business, we have to show them value. We have to make sure they're successful with our product and our services. And that's why the role of customer success is becoming instrumental to the success of organizations. You're seeing a lot of VP of customer success roles, chief customer officers. There's a huge development. There's a lot of things happening in the customer success space. And this is why I ended up landing in customer success, because I see a big future for the role. I moved to Canada a long time ago, so I may not have the similar experiences that Arinze, Chichi, and Rahul did. I decided not to put the exact date because then you'll know how old I am. But I was born in India. I moved to Singapore when I was like 4 years old. And then from Singapore, I came here to attend university. And then after university, I just ended up staying. Love Canada. I think it's a great country. The unique thing about Canada is that it's not a melting pot. It's not like, you have to assimilate. Everybody brings their own identities and their true selves, and we value that, right? So that's one of the things that stands out about Canada. And fun fact, I'm a pretty big guy. People might not notice, but yeah, I have a lot of skydiving experience, and I've jumped off a plane willingly a few times, and it was a great experience.
So I have to ask, have you ever bungee jumped?
I have bungee jumped. I've gone whitewater rafting. I've done all of that before marriage,
So
of course, because
What's more scary, or more thrill seeking? Is it the bungee jumping or skydiving?
Oh, skydiving by far. That split second right before you're about to take the jump, you're like, is this really the best thing? This is really a good thing to do. Yeah, there's no experience like jumping out of a plane.
That's great. So Paul, I think it's fantastic, because what I'd like to do or provide the listeners with is a leadership perspective. And I think that's, as per your opening, that's exactly what we're hoping to do today. I'd love to get your thoughts. First and foremost, what's your leadership style? How do you like to lead your team?
Yeah. I mean, I'm a servant leader, right? You'll see that word used a lot. We're here to make sure that the team is successful, like they get what they want. So I'm here to make sure that I support my team, and I'm in a way that I'm not micromanaging them and giving them instructions what to do. I think we hire a lot of smart people. They are the CEO of their own territory. They're going to go and manage their own roles and their deliverables. And when they get stuck or they need help or direction, that's what I come in. So that's my leadership style.
That's fantastic. Are you able to tell us a little bit about the culture at Salesforce?
Yes. There are a couple of things that stand out. So first of all, Salesforce is a great company, and I don't want to go through a list of all the things why it's such a great company. There's a lot of material out on the internet, top places to work. It has seen a lot of growth. So I mean, that information is already available. But I think what resonates with me is this, so if you look at the Salesforce values, there are a couple of things that stand out. Trust, right? Helps you build relationships. There's customer success. Customers always come first, and there's innovation. Those three things speak volumes to me, because that's what I'm all about. If I look at my strengths, I'm a very restorative person, which means that, I like to look at challenges, create problems, think outside the box, and provide solutions. Ultimately, that's what drives value, because if you keep doing the same thing you're doing right now, nothing will change, right? So how can we do things differently, a little bit more effective, a little bit more efficiently? And that is also what drives innovation. But from a culture perspective, if you look at it, we are all about being fearless, taking on change, adapting to change, being candor, speaking freely, right? We don't need to sit there and just wait for somebody to tell us what to do. We can come up with our own ideas. So that's the part of the culture that really resonates with me, is the ability to go challenge myself, make a difference, come up with ideas, and knowing that the organization will support me and listen to me, as opposed to shut it down because I'm a nobody, right? So that's something that has really made me stay at the company.
That's fantastic. Could not agree more. I've only been at the company for 3 months, and everything you said is spot on from day one. So could not agree more. Are you able to share a little bit of perspective or advice for folks looking to make that shift, and maybe not necessarily currently in a CS role? What are some of those soft skills that are critical in the CS space?
Yeah. So as I was listening to the conversations, I was taking some notes as well. I think there was a lot of discussions about how to be successful in the role and successful in the company. So I think everybody that's listening today should consider two different swim lanes, right? One is, how do you actually land the job? And the second is, how do you become successful in the role? So I think the audience here are going to be more concerned about, hey, we're new, how do we land the right role? What is customer success all about? Should I even be considering? So I'm going to cover more about landing the job and working for the right organization, right? The whole coaching, mentorship, and stuff like that, I think that's great because it'll help you land the role as well. But I'm going to give you a leader's perspective on the things that I look for, right? One is, I want to make sure that the people are being authentic. They're not trying to become somebody that they think I'm trying to hire, but they're bringing their true self, right? And a lot of ways that I see that is the way they narrate their experience, right? Are they being very truthful in terms of, hey, this is the experience I had, or this is what I bring to the table, and let me be a judge of how that's applicable to the role, as opposed to telling me about, hey, this is, a situation, made up situation that they will be good at, right? So use real life experiences in your past that would apply to the role, right? That shows me authenticity, and that shows me that, hey, these skills are transferable, right? So one of the advice I have for people who are looking to get roles here is, have a very clear elevator pitch, a very clear narration of, hey, these are your experiences. Look at the job profile and the job listing, see what the leaders are looking for, and make sure you have a relatable example or story to tell that plays to those skills that we're looking for, right? The second thing, so that's one, is, being your true self, relating your past experiences to the job requirements. The second thing is, I'm looking for grit and the ability to be, self-motivated, right? So the prep work that you can do. So for example, if you're applying to Salesforce, there's Trailhead that you can use. You can learn about the, Salesforce and the product that we sell. Taking some of those trainings and being able to speak a language and to, like, hey, these are our product capabilities, this is our roadmap, this is what we're trying to do, this is the space we play in, these are the competitions we have. Not that you have to tell us everything you know, but be able to weave that information into your conversation, knowing that, hey, you've done your homework, you have prepared yourself, is really going to set you apart, right? So the preparing for it, understanding what you're applying for, not just having this blanket thing, hey, I'm going to go apply for every role I might be able to fit in, but being very intentional with why you're good for the role and why you want the job, I think it's going to set you apart, right? And then lastly, sorry, I know I'm taking a lot of time, but this is important.
No,
I think
this is great.
the last thing is, networking is important, right? A lot of people show up for the interview not knowing what the role is or what the day-to-day is. I like people who take initiative. Reach out to somebody who's already in the role. LinkedIn is such a powerful tool, and a lot of people want to help. They want to be able to mentor and coach people, and they want to spend time with you. I don't think there's ever been an instance where somebody reached out to somebody on my team and asked for help, and my team said no. They're willing to spend time with you, talk about the role, some of the challenges that we're having, why the role is good. And if each one of you can reach out to the role that you're applying for and reach out to somebody who's already in the role and prepare yourself and get a good understanding of what the day-to-day looks like, what the challenges are, what the objectives of the role are, I think you'll stand out in the interview, right? So it goes back to just being really prepared, really knowing how you can set yourself apart.
I think that's spot on. And just to kind of build off of that, we have included scannable QR codes in this deck right here that take you directly to the LinkedIn profiles of all the speakers today. So could not agree more. Reach out to the extended team or the folks that you're looking to connect with or prospective areas you're interested in. I think that's fantastic advice, Paul. It's great. So I guess I'll close it off. Maybe from a non-work standpoint, are you able to share kind of you mentioned that of course you love Canada. I want to share a really positive kind of end off on a positive note with the speakers. What's your really like one thing that everyone has to do, and whether it's on Ontario, Canada, that you love and that you want to kind of leave with the team? An experience, it could be food, whatever it is. I love to.
That's a tough one. So we have short summers. Enjoy the outside, enjoy the weather, go up north, spend some time, because otherwise you'll be cooped up in the winter and you might have withdrawal from being outdoors. So just be aware of the seasons and enjoy time. I know it's a lot of stress right now because you're trying to figure out your job and you're trying to sell it and stuff like that. But mental well-being is also very important. That's one thing I always tell my people is be intentional about it, book some time, right? Because if you're trying to do it like just, hey, hey, it's Saturday, I'll figure out what to do, it'll never happen. So just like you're planning your other stuff, plan to take time off, plan to have some, fun, leisurely activities, because then, that'll make sure that you're not overly stressed. And it actually, because you're now a little bit relaxed, it'll help you with the other stressful things you're doing as well.
That's fantastic. I think now would be a fantastic chance to open it up for Q&A, and we might come back to you, Paul, so hang tight. Rahul, I'm not sure if you've been keeping an eye on the chat questions. Anything we want to have Paul address? I see one right here. What are your thoughts on applicants applying for more than one role in the same company?
As long as you're preparing for both roles and you're not being generic about it, I think it's okay. Where the problem becomes is when you are not putting in the work to differentiate yourself, right? So if you just generalize your resume or your talk track, now you're not going to stand out. I don't like to spread myself too thin. I like to be intentional, saying that, hey, customer success is where I want to be. I'm passionate about it, right? I'm prepared for this role. These are all my transferable skills. If you can have that level of conversation on multiple roles, then go for it. But I don't think typically people are able to compartmentalize themselves and say, hey, look, every role that I'm going to apply for, I'm going to be equally passionate about.
And I just wanted to add to Paul's point on preparation. I while you were talking, Paul, I pulled up my interview prep Word document. It's like 9 pages. I try to anticipate different kinds of questions I would get in an interview and just try and refine my responses to them to make sure they're relevant, to make sure, it relates. That level of preparation goes a long way.
So from a leadership perspective, I've done hundreds of interviews, right? One of the best advice I can give people is when an interviewer asks you a question, do not just jump on responding because you know the answer. Take a moment and think about why are they asking that question, right? And how does it relate to the role and job posting? Because you might have your own thoughts, but if you don't take a moment to think about why the interviewer is asking that question, where this is going, then you're going to miss the mark. You're going to miss the opportunity to impress them. So there are certain things that you can do to improve your interview skills. A lot of people think, hey, I'm just going to be myself. That's great, because I've said like, hey, you bring your true self, but also be prepared. Think about the way people are interviewed here. What are some of the types of questions they ask, right? How to be, succinct with your answers. So that takes practice. Find a coach, find somebody that's going to hold you accountable, do some, role playing with them. You have to put in the effort to prepare for the interview. Just don't take it lightly.
Can I just chime in here? Just a quick smudge. Arinze mentioned him having a page full of possible questions. I take it a step further and I actually write a talk track for every interview I have. Any possible question I think they may ask me, I write down exactly, maybe not exactly, but I write down my thought process and how I want to answer that question. And that kind of guides me when I'm talking. So I'm not doing a lot of filler words, and also helps to kind of arrange your thought process and make you better prepared and less anxious when you are in the interview. So just wanted to add that in there.
That's great.
We have another question from, so we have a question from Anne, and it's to you, Paul. She's asking, like, you hired Arinze when he was new to Canada, right? So how did he stand out? What did he do right in his interview? So why did you hire him?
I was just a very good looking guy. That's what it
was. I think I hire great people, and that comes from experience and things that I am able to pick out during my interview process. We've built a very diverse, strong team. I think with my background, I value the diversity of opinion that people bring. With Arinze, what really stood out is the way he was polished and he was prepared. Every answer he gave was succinct and addressed what I did. So he wasn't going like in circles and just covering and sharing everything he knows. He answered the question, but sometimes he also followed up with, hey, so let's dive a little bit deeper into that question. Do you have other areas? Or like, it was a very conversational thing, but it was very polished and it was very succinct. I could tell that he prepared really well for the role, because I usually try to throw one or two questions to stump people, and he didn't get stumped at all. So he kept his composure. He was very so the way I hire people is like, can I put them in front of customers? Would they represent the company well? And he came across as someone who could.
And I would say I've been doing a fair bit of interviewing in the last year or so. It's very easy to tell when someone's prepared for an interview or not. It's also very easy to tell when someone's just telling you, regurgitating information they've read on the internet versus something that they've actually worked on, and it's really personal to them. So I know we've drummed on this, but preparation is key. Don't feel overconfident, like you can walk in and wing it. You'll do yourself a disservice, and especially when you consider how challenging it is to get in front of an interviewer in the first place. I want to make every hit count, right? So you just always need to put the work in.
From my perspective, we're interviewing a lot of people. You have to stand out. I consider my time very valuable. If I'm spending an hour interviewing you, and I see you as somebody who doesn't come in prepared, didn't make the effort to reach out to people, find out a little bit about the role, I'm not going to be listening attentively, because I don't feel like you have given this a fair shot, or you have put in the effort, right? If you can't prepare for the interview, how are you going to be successful in your role when you have to go out to the customer? Because the same thing is, you have to prepare for that meeting. You have to go out and do research on the customer, what they're trying to drive and stuff like that. So it's a good indication on how you will perform on the job, right? So that's the one big thing that really stands out is, are you taking this seriously? And how much work did you do prior to the interview?
Awesome. And honestly, like, what I actually have, I've been talking to a lot of people, right? Like, since I've come to Canada, and what I know is that every person's story is unique. You have your own, struggles to go through. And like, again, that's why you have those achievements, the way Chichi mentioned. For me, I'll say my story was a bit different. So as I mentioned, like, I wasn't in CS, but what I did was I came here, saw like how the job market is, like what all roles will I fit in. I actually went back to India. So when I went back to India, it was easier for me to switch and get something which, I can use in my resume, which kind of resonates with what the job market in Canada requires. I know like this can't be or won't be the story of everyone, but again, everyone have their own things, everyone have their own struggles. So for me, it was easier that way to switch, find a role that actually was, I could perform well in, and probably, you know, will help me get interviews here in Canada. So we have another question from, and they're asking for like, hi Arinze and Chichi, could I ask you guys to run me through the main components of your day-to-day tasks? We'll start with Chichi, you first.
I would say that no 2 days are the same. It all depends on what I have planned for the day, as well as any other unplanned events that happen. But essentially, it's there's a lot of admin work that goes behind being a customer success manager. You want to make sure that you have all of your information regarding your territory and your accounts on deck all the time. You're updating what needs to be updated, as well as attending to your customers and customers meeting as well. So we have what we call the cadence call. So I have some customers that like a monthly cadence call, or a bi-weekly cadence call, or even quarterly. And then I have customers that I check in with from time to time, just sending them like more information or sending them emails just to see how they're doing and if I can come in there to assist them with anything or support, or just giving them like, you know, need to know like, hey, have you seen this? You know, we just released this, or we just announced this, and all of that, just to make sure that the engagement is there and they know that I'm there in their corner. I think that's kind of like a high overview of what my day-to-day looks like. And of course, there's our team banter group that is so much fun. That kind of helps to take away the pressures of the day. Paul and Arinze are the masters of the group. So yeah, that's basically it.
That's great. I see a question from Alina for Arinze about identifying job vacancies. How did you go about doing that? And did you refer to job boards only, or were there any other sources of identifying employers / job posting?
Yeah, I've always, LinkedIn has always been primary for me, but I've also used other job boards like Indeed, Glassdoor. The one thing I would say, and I shared that on the chat, is if you see a job on the job board you really want to apply for, a trick I do is I go to the company's career site. So if I see on LinkedIn there's a Salesforce Customer Success role, I will go to the Salesforce job site to see if that role is actually there. Because what you will find is there can be a lag between, you know, a company's career website and LinkedIn or Glassdoor. Sometimes you see roles and job sites that have already been filled, but they're still they haven't been taken, you know, off the site. So if you see a job, it's good practice to actually go back to the company's website. And if you see the job posted there, then in all likelihood, they're still hiring for it, and just hire. And then you can apply directly from the company website. Because sometimes it's easy just to apply, you know, press the easy apply button on LinkedIn, and you feel like you're sending your CVs out there to companies, but it's going into a black hole and no one's calling you back. It's a little bit of work, but it certainly helps you to, you know, to make sure you're not wasting your time.
Hey, Marriam, can I just maybe share some advice with the team here? I think waiting for a job board and applying to it is a very reactionary thing to do. Now you're amidst 300-400 people that probably have applied for the job. You have to be intentional. I keep using the word on purpose, right? Find a company that you like, find a role that you want to get into, find who's the recruiter on LinkedIn, reach out to them and say, hey, this is what I want to do, right? This is my passion. I really want to work for the company. I really want to work for the role, and this is why I'm going to be good at it. Because what's going to happen is we hire in different cycles, right? So headcount gets approved. We go to our internal recruiters. They post a job. Now, if they already have a candidate that's in the pipeline or they have spoken to, they're going to get on top of the list, right? So you have to be a little bit more proactive and intentional about the job you want to go after, as opposed to just looking for job postings and being reactionary to those.
That's great advice.
And to Paul's point, we had someone who reached out to Paul, was it a year and a half ago?
Mega, yeah.
Yeah, and she was hired about a year ago. So at the time there was no job opening, but Paul remembered and they stayed in touch on LinkedIn. And when the job was available on the team, she was asked to apply and she went through the process and got hired. So
now, I wouldn't suggest everybody do this, but she every month she would be like, hey, Paul, just reminding you, I'm still interested in the role if there's something else. And I finally, because of her persistence, I had to give her an interview, and then she blew me away, and we gave her a job.
That's fantastic. I see a question here, and Paul, you may have kind of addressed this, but I think I'd like you to take another take at it. It's what does it take to be successful in a diverse work environment in Canada? I think I'd love to hear your perspective. You spoke about you love that different, like we each come with a different perspective, and that's what really sets us apart. But would love to hear your thoughts on that.
And when I read the question, I was like, I want to take that, because I think there has been a lot of change, right? I remember when I first came here, and I was talking to a lot of people, and even my own parents had to go through is the language barrier, the Canadian experience. Hey, you don't have any Canadian experience. That was a big thing. Now leaders are looking for diversity, right? We have to represent our community. So the people that we hire have to represent the mix of our customers and the communities that we work in. If you look at Canada, it's a very diverse community. If you look at the customers I'm talking to, they're very diverse. So the bringing experience from outside and not necessarily Canadian experience is actually an asset, and you have to play to that. That's one of the reasons why Arinze was strong in his interview, because he played to all the different roles they had outside, and his exposure to working with different types of customers, different needs. And he said, hey, if I can work with 10 different customers internationally, I can work with Canadian customers, right? So it's how do you use it to your strengths, as opposed to thinking that, hey, this might be a weakness. It's not. Your diversity is a key strength that you should play up on.
And the right company would appreciate it as well. I think that's the other thing. If you find yourself interviewing in a company where you feel the instinct that you need to kind of dilute your personality, your culture, then maybe the bigger question is this the right company for me to work in? And that's one thing I'm just very proud of Salesforce for, is we're all weird and quirky and fun and unique and different, and Salesforce wants us that way.
Yep, very much so. I see a question come through for Anne, and Paula, maybe we'll have you answer this. Recently, we saw major layoffs in big tech companies in the US. Do you see that as a trend which may affect Canada?
Yeah, I mean, things are very cyclical, right? There's always going to be headwinds and tailwinds, right? So right now we do have some headwinds. Tech companies are suffering because you could see what's going on with the stock market and everything like that. But I look at it at a very macro level, and I don't think this is going to be a long-term recession. I think people are just slowing down just to make sure they don't over-leverage themselves and over-hire. We're still growing. Salesforce as a company is still growing 30% year over year, right? So I think some of the hiring has been on pause, but I do think as we go later in the year and as new budgets get approved, because now we're going to be looking for next year's budget and hiring for the next cycle, I think the job market is going to open up. I still think recruiters are coming up with a pipeline of candidates. I don't think you should wait. I think you should still reach out to recruiters, make yourself known, let them know that you're interested, so that you're top of mind when the headcounts do get freed up.
That's great advice. I just saw Arinze post that Salesforce has hired 35,000 people globally, most likely in the last 2 years. So just goes to show it never really stops. It's cyclical, as Paul had mentioned. I know we have one more minute. I saw a question here, which was around remote and distributed culture. Tanzala, I'm guessing by that question you're referring to like working from home. If that's the question, so we are currently, everyone is fully enabled to work from home. Our offices are open, specifically within Ontario, our downtown office, folks are welcome to come in as per their comfort, but all of us are enabled to work remotely. Yes, and having international teams. Yes, absolutely. So we are set up on a region basis. So For instance, Canada does get grouped into the larger Americas, which includes the US as well. So you'll find folks working, in different time zones. You'll be part of the same team. And maybe Paul can speak to that. But yes, definitely internationally, our teams, we have folks based all over.
Tenzo, maybe you could speak a little bit more to your question. I mean, are you asking if you can have a Canadian job when living in a different country? Because our employment rules stipulate that you have to be in the same country. So there's some legality around it as well, because how you pay taxes and all that stuff. But from a remote working perspective, I think remote working is here to stay. I think there's going to be no push to get everybody back in the office. If you work for a global company, they might have ways to let you work, onshore, offshore model. But Salesforce specifically, and depending on the role, if you are going to be employed by a Canadian entity, then you legally have to be a resident of Canada. I don't know if that's where you were going. More like being employed by international. Yes, Salesforce is an international company, and we're hiring people in Canada to sometimes serve local and US markets.
That's right. Great. I know we're a minute over, so Sharbari, maybe I'll pull it back to yourself for some closing remarks. But again, thank you, speakers, for your time, and attendees for your questions and your engagement. We really hope you were able to get some value out of this session. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Marriam, Rahul, Paul, Arinze, and Chichi. This was, I would call it a masterclass in, for all our participants, because this is exactly what we talk to them about in terms of preparation for, job searching in Canada, the things that are required from the perspective of someone who's coming new to the country. Like they say, moving or immigrating to a new country is one of the top stressors in life, right? So it takes a lot for someone to kind of approve themselves, come to a new place, and figure out ways to settle. So from the Canada InfoNet program perspective, we are here to support them through this journey, but we tell them that it's about taking charge of your career, and it's about figuring out who you are in this new country, and that there's so many perspectives and layers to it that they have to put in the work. It's not as simple as I'll get there and figure out. There's a lot to think through, there's a lot to process, and there's a lot to prepare for. And I think all the different perspectives that we heard from today, I think you hit the nail on the head, and very, very important information. We will definitely be reusing this recording to share with our other participants in the future as well. I think there's a lot of good points covered here and resources shared. So really, thank you so much. From me and from the team and from all the participants, this was a very, very useful session. I look forward to hosting more of these, and thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Sharbari. Take
Thank you
care.
all.
Thank you for having us.
Have a good one.
Thank you for the
Bye.
opportunity. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.